Welcome to the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Tom Kelly, your nonprofit catalyst. As the founder of Charity Auctions Today and Donor Books, I've spent almost 2 decades helping organizations like yours break through fundraising barriers, engage communities on a deeper level, and accelerate meaningful growth. In this podcast, along with my incredible guests, we'll uncover transformational ideas, tackle challenges head-on, and share insider strategies that you won't find anywhere else. Each episode is designed to take your nonprofit to the $1 million mark and beyond. Because impact doesn't scale by chance, it scales by choice. So let's get started. In today's episode, we're having an exciting conversation with a nonprofit expert and coach, Sean Kosofsky, also known as the Nonprofit Fixer. Sean shares with us 5 creative metrics from his framework on measuring organizational effectiveness. Metrics that go beyond the numbers and really capture your nonprofit's true impact. He talks about everything from leveraging cutting-edge technology to treating your reputation and relationships as a form of currency. Sean breaks down how to showcase the full scope of your work to funders and donors in a way that you may not have considered before. We also explore the importance of resilience, discussing how having a crisis plan in place not only protects your nonprofit, but also helps you stand out as a leader in your field. In a twist you won't want to miss, Sean reveals one of the most overlooked ways your nonprofit is making real impact. Stick around for practical, game-changing insights you can start using right away. Sean, welcome to the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm excited for today's call. I know they call you the Nonprofit Fixer, and part of your day-to-day job when fixing nonprofits is really kind of coming up with these metrics that organizations should be tracking so that they can really kind of propel their growth and really know where they're lacking and where they need to maybe put some focus to help their organization grow. And I know you created the 18 creative metrics to measure organizational effectiveness. And I know today we don't have time for the full 18, but I know at the end we're going to give the listeners access to get the full 18. But you have the top 5 that you want to share with us today. Why don't we dive right in and let's just get started with what you think the top 5 metrics every organization should be tracking here.
Well, I'm actually going to share probably the 5 most creative ones,
Nice.
Which makes them my favorite. But when I talk to audiences about this, they usually get really excited. So the idea behind this was I have only worked in small nonprofits my entire life. And sometimes at the end of that grant period, and you got to write a grant report saying what you did, and you're looking around, you're like, oh my God, I've been so busy this year, but how do I prove that I've actually reached my mission? How do I prove the things I told this funder I was going to go do? Because most nonprofits are so busy doing stuff that they don't track or measure or have the money for evaluation. So I just listed out these 18 ways that I think we can tell our story better. And so here's one of the ones that I really love, which is technology. So one of the ways to tell our donors or funders that we're actually making impact is that over time we do acquire better technology. We get better subscriptions. We get better software. We start collaborating more with our teams and with our boards and our volunteers. And that new technology that comes online helps us be more efficient, more effective, more productive, and therefore we are reaching our mission faster. And so I think technology can be one of those important things. We are able to do a lot more now with AI. We're able to do a lot more now with all of the platforms that come out, and platforms tend to be cheaper or sometimes free for nonprofits. So it's one of the things we have an edge on the private sector is that we sometimes can use really, really good technology. And CRMs are sort of like the same way. Another tip that I think is really important for people to examine and explore in terms of talking about their improvement and work that they've done throughout the year is reputation improvement. So what I mean by that is over time, you are going to start building relationships with newsrooms and lawmakers, office holders, office seekers, companies, vendors, area businesses that are donating gift cards to your annual auction, right? Over time, reputation improvement improves. So that matters. That is actually like currency. The reason why you get your calls returned, the reason why people show up when you convene a meeting is because of reputation. And I think that we should be telling people, some of the hidden stuff that we're developing throughout the year is being thorough, being quality, being a high performing organization. All of these things help lead to great reputation. So it shouldn't be diminished when we're talking with our funders and donors that we have improved our reputation. People want to be in coalition with us, right? These are some of the better things to be able to talk about that you can't neatly measure. Another one is talent acquisition. And so companies talk about talent acquisition all the time. So what I mean by talent acquisition is that if you really are strategic about building a board that is going to help you reach your mission, that can be really powerful. We were able to nab these people on our board that come from foundations and lawyers and doctors. That can really be a great talent acquisition. Or you've been able to round up really talented staff, volunteers, interns, or vendors. So acquiring the talent under your roof can be really important. You are stronger and have more capacity over time when you acquire this talent. You do things better. Your work product is better. Your programs are better. And when you start measuring all of the different hours and skills and accomplishments of the team you've assembled, it's really quite impressive. And I think as nonprofits, we forget that the humans, the talent, the work that we've accumulated, the body of work, the stuff we've published, the things we've said, and panels we've been on, that all of that actually really matters and really can be pretty valuable when you talk to funders. Another area that I really love is resilience. How do we as organizations withstand shocks to the system, right? COVID was a really powerful one. Some organizations have built a rainy day fund. Some of them have policies and procedures to deal with whistleblowers or to deal with sexual harassment or to deal with a downturn in the economy. We really need to tell that story that we were responsible and ethical and we are good stewards of our dollars, that we've been able to build organizational resilience. If you're a nonprofit leader and you helped your organization get through COVID and you're still standing, that's resilience, right? So I really do believe that we don't talk enough about how we have built up the armor on our organizations to withstand a crisis or withstand a public challenge to our reputation or to withstand a shortfall in terms of money. And then the fifth one that I'll talk about for today is something that's a little creative, which is what have you prevented? So let's say that it's not always about what you've accomplished, but what about the things you have prevented? So for example, I used to work at an LGBTQ civil rights organization in Michigan, and I know that because our bark was bigger than our bite, we actually were loud and very animated and very good activists. And because we were so strong and visible in the press, folks who wanted to oppose us, folks who wanted to introduce legislation that was discriminatory, they thought twice about it because they just knew we would just drag them through the coals, right? So lawmakers just didn't want to be affiliated with that kind of policy. So I really do believe that if your presence has made the issue environment better, if your presence has made the policy environment better, if your presence has prevented politicians or activists or celebrities or other leaders from doing something bad because you're on the prowl and you're out there watchdogging them, that can be really, really effective. And sometimes we forget to remind our stakeholders that simply existing, simply being here means that phone call, that there's a person there to answer a phone call when a young person is in distress, that there's a suicide maybe that you prevented, or an act of bullying that you prevented, or a mom struggling in silence about what to do with their kid. You were able to deal with that. So what are the things we have prevented simply by being open and having our doors open and being funded and just operating, right? So those are just 5 of the things I love to tell nonprofits to explain to funders when you're struggling to try to find metrics about what you've actually accomplished.
Well, I think those 5 were a great start of the 18, right? And let's double click and deep dive into a couple of them. When it comes to like measuring something like resilience and reputation, what's a good way that a small nonprofit can implement something that can actually measure the impact that each one of those 2 areas are having?
Well, I like to think of measuring not always in terms of metrics, but sometimes whether you have something or whether you don't. So for example, do you have a crisis communications plan? And all a crisis communications plan is saying, what are the 5 worst things that could happen to our organization this year? Could it be a volunteer downloading our volunteer list and putting it on the internet? Could it be a board member getting arrested, right? What are the 5 worst things that could happen to our fundraising ability and to our reputation? And then over the next 6 months, you rank them. Like, what's the worst one out of these five? And then you begin to mitigate them, eliminate them, or prevent them, right? So the very possession of a crisis communications plan per- creates resilience for the organization. Another thing you can create is a rainy day fund. So whether you have a rainy day fund or whether you don't, really impresses funders. I've told funders over time, we can withstand other funders walking away because we have 3 to 6 months of cushion. That alone makes funders feel better about their investment. So the possession of a rainy day policy, the possession of a crisis communication strategy, these are the kinds of things that you can check off on the list. You measure them by saying, do we have them or do we not? Have we had this internal set of conversations or have we not? That's one way to go deeper on resilience.
Yeah, I like that. And what has been the feedback from nonprofits who have sat in this workshop and learned all 18 of these metrics? What is it like the number one thing that when they leave that workshop, they're like, oh my God, I never thought about this. This was just valuable information.
Well, I just did this training. I have this training on my website that I've done for my own sort of audience, but I also just did this for 1,600 people for Bloomerang just recently. And what happens time after time is that people forget. They just forget these basic things. We're trying so hard for vanity metrics, number of social media posts. They're looking at outputs instead of outcomes. And what I help people do is say, okay, stop, take a beat, take a breath. What are you accomplishing in the world? Just keep a journal throughout the year of all the things you're accomplishing. For executive directors, I give away a thing called a success journal because there are all sorts of things we're getting done throughout the year. When we're measured at our annual review, we want to be able to say, I averted this crisis. I was able to keep this person from leaving the board. They're hard to measure, but you must write them down. You must create a log. So when people come to this training, one of the things they really love is that I've named the things they were doing all along. And usually they fall somewhere in the realm of what have I prevented? What, because I was on guard and doing my job, what bad things didn't happen? They usually hadn't thought about that. Or they forget, oh yeah, that's right. The body of work we've created in the past year, every social media post, every email, that is wisdom and knowledge that we have put out into the world. They forget that those assets are assets.
Well, and a lot of people just forget, like you said, about the little things, the basic things that you should be doing on a day-to-day basis. That people have this shiny object syndrome, right? Where they're like, "Ooh, Instagram. How do I get more followers here? How do I get more followers there?" And they forget about the basics. And usually, it's the basics that just help propel the organization forward. What new technology was the first one you chose, or why it really was new technology one of the first things you chose on your list of 5?
Because as a small business, I've been in business now for 6 or 7 years, and I just keep thinking with every better decision I make with the software I'm using internally, I'm getting better as a company. I'm able to search things faster. I'm able to more quickly find a discussion that I want to reduce duplication and waste by going back through my Slack search history and figuring out, oh, we've already had this conversation. We already talked about this 2 years ago. So I think that technology is really, really important because it holds on to information in the cloud for a long period of time. Oh, what's the history of all the e-blasts that we put out to our network in the past year? What have we been nurturing them to feel and know and see? What's the data on who's been opening our emails and where people are clicking? This is all valuable information. These are insights we did not have 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So I think technology for me, and when I'm working with nonprofits, it really has to do with the internet and increasingly more AI. You can literally go on AI right now, ChatGPT, and ask it to produce lists of nonprofit podcasts for you or lists of nonprofit corporate foundations. There's things you can do with the technology now that just cuts so much time in half. So technology grows your organization. If you know how to use it, you are more resilient, you are stronger, you have more capacity than ever before. So building the right team to use that technology just helps you tell that story to funders so much better.
Yeah, I look at it like some people are all in on AI and other people are like, oh, I don't want to, it's going to replace my team members. But really, you shouldn't be thinking of it that way. You need to be thinking of it, it's going to help your team members be more productive so they can get more work done with less effort, and hopefully scale your impact even further and faster. So I love the idea of trying to use AI whenever you can, because I would much rather edit than author it. So an AI really kind of helps get the ball rolling when it comes to anything that you need to potentially research or write. Definitely will help out.
I think that's a great point, which is we tend to think everything we're creating has to be original, and it doesn't. I'm happy to borrow stuff from other people and give them credit. This came from Steve, this came from Sally, this came from the Kellogg Foundation. We don't have to author everything new. Almost everything that needs to be said has been said. So lean into AI and say, and without giving away your proprietary information, but lean into AI and basically decide this is going to be a way we're going to use this to create more work, right? More awesomeness, right, in our organization. And it is because you're going to create so many more good results that hopefully more money will come and your staff will not be replaced.
Yeah, I love that. Let's dive deeper into the reputation theme that you spoke about. How do nonprofits double down on making their relationships with businesses a form of currency, like you said?
Well, I think that one of the ways you can build reputation is through social proof, right? So just every single time something is working, if you get a testimonial, if you get an article in the paper, if you get someone giving you five-star reviews on Google, round up all of that stuff and brag about it. We don't do a good job about bragging in nonprofits. We must tell our story, and we must tell our story visually and through story. So one of the best ways to deepen our reputation is to do quality work, which hopefully we're all doing. Another thing is to be good community members. Someone emails you, you email them back. So it's just like customer service, but nonprofits don't think of it in terms of customer service. If someone from the community is reaching out, you reply, you polite. That's part of reputation development, right? But also having a good, ethical, honest set of data. So sometimes reporters, lawmakers, they will look to you for information. If you can show them not just the faces and stories of those impacted by an issue, but data to back up the problem, you're going to have a stronger reputation. What you don't want is to be flaky. What you don't want is to be considered silly. It's okay to be small. It's okay to be small. Evolution has always benefited smaller creatures over larger creatures. It's okay to be small and nimble. You don't have to scale. Small organizations can do 3 things well instead of 20 things poorly. So it's not about size. It is really reputation. It's not about power. It is about ethical delivery of quality work and being good community players.
Yeah, I was recently interviewing Robert from Cloud Cover Streets out of Phoenix. And one thing he does that I thought was a really great way of showing that social proof and giving back to his sponsors was they help the homeless. And he always gathers all the homeless people that they just gave showers to, haircuts, clothes. And he has all the people that he worked with that day, like, do a Facebook or an Instagram video thanking the sponsor for the donation that helped make this day possible, and then tagging those sponsors and those donors. And those businesses love to see that, right? That's giving that business also social proof that they're donating to a good cause, and now the nonprofit that's receiving those donations is giving the shout out back, with showing kind of where that donation supported the people. And I just thought that was a great way of being able to show some social proof of how that money has impacted the community and what could be done there.
Yeah, totally. I think showing, not telling, is really powerful in nonprofit. This is exactly what I'm sort of leaning into here, which is we just list results or list our programs instead of weaving together a story of what we've actually delivered in the world, which is community. Like some people might say, oh, we have a, it's like the difference between benefits and features oriented language. Like you might say, oh, we have a computer lab. What if that computer lab is actually a community center, right? People don't come there just to get on the internet. They're breaking bread with their peers. That's the time of day where they're actually building friendships and feeling less isolated and therefore less despair, right? So we don't even realize all the things we're creating, but we have to ask our service population, what are we delivering for you? And the words that come out of their mouth are not the same words that come out of our mouths, right? So there's all these great wisdom among those that we're serving.
If after this, I would ask, of the 18 metrics that you have. You listed 5, and we have a lot more that we can go into, but I want to ask a couple more questions. But before we get into the next questions, how can people find out more information about you, what you do, and kind of get the rest of the 18?
Well, first things first is you can just go to my website, which is nonprofitfixer.com. Nonprofitfixer.com is the place to go. When you get to my website, I give away lots of free tools. And this is a blog post. So just head over to my blog. Hopefully in the show notes for the show, we'll give you a direct link right to this blog. So this is a paid training that I've offered. So if you want this level of detail on all 18, you can pay for the course. It's really inexpensive, but it's based on a blog, which is free. And you can go to that, read that. It's updated throughout the year over time as I learn other tips and tricks for telling stories. So definitely go to nonprofitfixer.com, sign up for my emails, and I give away tons of free stuff. It's my way of doing pro bono work, which is giving away free information to the sector to help people improve.
That's great. And I do suggest everybody go check out Sean's website, get a list of the 18 and get into his world. Great information also on your LinkedIn account. So definitely follow him there. All right, let's get back to a question here is, a lot of nonprofits they might think, hey, I'm doing a great job. I don't need any help. But what are some common misconceptions a nonprofit has about evaluating their own nonprofit? Like, what are some common mistakes they make that maybe they don't realize they're making?
I think we tend to just regurgitate statistics. People don't remember statistics. So they just don't remember them. They remember stories. They remember visuals. They remember how they felt when you told a story. So it's very common for executive directors and even some fundraisers to think, oh, I did the bare minimum. I told this funder I was going to go do. I just got to sew up this report and I'm done. And they move on to the next grant. But really, that is a huge mistake. If you love fundraising like I do, if you love moving wealth from where it lives to where it can change lives, from someone's bank account to our bank account, if you love fundraising, you see that there's an endless supply of resources out there to grow your work and to save lives, change lives, improve the world, less pollution, less cancer. So when people think that they are doing a decent job at this, I say there's so much more we can do. We are not inviting enough people to give. We're not inviting enough people into our organizations. And the way to get them in is to tell our story. It is so inspirational to watch more and more people want to start a nonprofit or want to join a board or want to start a social enterprise because they see it's just so powerful to see people wanting to solve problems instead of just wanting to hunker down and get insular and let other people solve problems. I love that. And the way to get more people activated to solve problems in our society is to show that this stuff works.
Well, I think the common theme of everybody I've ever interviewed has been storytelling and how important storytelling is. It's about your mission, who you're helping. It kind of comes back to, again, that social proof and really just honing in that skill of storytelling and just telling a story instead of just showing the metrics, like you said, could get a little bit analytical and maybe some people might get, glazed over. But if you tell a good, compelling story, it'll really kind of pull at their heartstrings and kind of pull them into the organization. What would you say that the more they show their social proof and their work to the public kind of equals more donations?
I think that social proof is one of the factors that gets people to convert. If I'm thinking about volunteering, if I'm thinking about donating, if I'm thinking about attending this rally, one of the things that makes me want to go is you showing me that other people are involved. People love belonging. They love seeing their tribe at something. So part of social proof is proof of concept. Part of social proof is showing momentum. Part of social proof is pictures of other happy, smiling, well-adjusted people showing up at stuff, right? So I do believe what it gets is for someone who's on the fence to buy something or on the fence to donate or on the fence to participate, that social proof is like, yeah, this stuff works. I'm here. I'm in for it, right? So I think that's what it helps people do.
Yeah. And really what you're trying to do is just build a community of people that are all like-minded, that want to contribute to your mission, want to help support the people that you support. And, the best thing to do that, the best way to show that is show everybody else, their peer groups, other people in the community doing the same thing. And it'll be easier to kind of get people into your world. So out of the five that you shared today, what's the easiest of these metrics that a small nonprofit can implement the quickest?
I think the easiest one is probably resilience, because all you need to do is scenario plan. You could literally have a series of conversations over 3 months to anticipate problems. Like, what if you, like, I've had funders tell me, I used to run a climate change organization, and we had enemies. We had people who didn't want to believe that climate change is a thing and they don't want to participate in it. And there are funders who are worried that there are undercover people taping us during our meetings, we're just waiting for the wrong sentence to just sting us and release a video and claim that we're all frauds, right? So when I tell funders, one of the things we've done is we have done crisis planning. We have thought through undercover cameras. We have thought through what if someone accuses us of this? We have thought through all this stuff, and we are impervious. We have mapped out those liabilities. We have mapped out those things where we're vulnerable, and we have mitigated them, prevented them, reduced them over time. We have been thoughtful. So when you ride with us, when you fund us, you're not going to be embarrassed. We're going to be resilient to these things. And I think that part of resilience is passing some policies, having some nice conversations, and it costs $0. So I think that that's one of the things people can get started with soon.
Yeah, that's great. And what would you say to a nonprofit listening right now that might be a little intimidated by evaluating themselves and not sure kind of where to start?
If you're an organization and you want to do evaluation, there are big funders that expect you to hire a professional evaluation person. If you're intimidated by metrics and math and numbers and making sure it's that you can prove your statistics and that it's not biased, all that, that's not the point. When funders want evaluation, what they really want to know is, does it, in an unbiased way, work? There are so many ways to do this. One of the ways you can evaluate your work is through a pre-post test. Literally, just ask your service population, how did you feel before we helped you, and how do you feel now? You've just measured something. You can measure your A/B testing of your emails. That is super simple. Most software does it now in the background for free. There are so many ways to test and evaluate, but one of the things you can do to do evaluation is qualitative, which is just do surveys. Just literally sit with your service population and your coalition partners and say, how do you feel we're doing, right? And those raw, honest interviews with people can be measurement, right? So if you're young and you're new as an organization, funders are not expecting you to be using sophisticated instruments. Don't be intimidated, but do inquire.
Well, Sean, this has been great. I know you are everywhere online, and anywhere people that are in the nonprofit world sectors, all the leaders, you have a lot of different services that can help them out. What's coming up in your world that our listeners should kind of stay tuned for? Anything new coming down the pipeline that you're excited about?
One of the things I'm really big on, and where my business is mostly moving toward, is executive coaching. So if you are a leader in a nonprofit, so a board chair, founder, executive director, C-suite, I believe we have for way too long let them lead alone. We have not given them enough support. I think we need to spend more professional development dollars giving people coaching. So I do a group coaching program that I launched last year. It is growing every year. And so we did 2 rounds this year. So what people are going to see coming from me in October and November is another launch of the group coaching program. People are really enjoying meeting their peers and finding a support group among other nonprofit leaders and leaning into some curriculum and really getting a biweekly coaching call. I think it's very affordable too. I think that people forget to invest in themselves. We've been so accustomed to being thrown in the deep end and being told, spin all the plates, keep everything running, swim, build the plane as you're flying it, all the metaphors. And we don't ask our boards and funders, I need support. I need cash for coaching. I want a mentor. I want cross training. I want more. If you want me to succeed and not burn out and to find some balance in this job, I want coaching. So my business has been moving in the direction of offering more coaching because I want to support leaders and not let them burn out.
I think that's a great service offer. I can contribute all of my success to coaches. I've spent lots of money over since I was 18 on hiring coaches and getting the professional training I needed to kind of level up my skills. And I think everybody needs a coach in some area that they want to improve on. So I think it's great that you're offering that service now. Sean, this has been great. Everyone go please check out the full list of the 18 creative metrics to measure organizational effectiveness and all the downloads Sean offers on his website. We will link the digital download link in the description below. Sean, again, thank you so much for being on the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. This has been a great episode. Lots of great information.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. If you'd like free resources to take your nonprofit to the $1 million mark, visit realtomkelly.com/playbooks. And because I'm committed to helping nonprofits maximize their impact and reach as many people as possible, contact us at hello@realtomkelly.com to explore bringing me in to speak at your next event. And as always, I'm looking forward to sharing more transformative insights with you on our next episode.